Okay, we're going to go to Tanya now. Okay, last week we left off, we finished Perek Vav. We're starting Perek Zayin. On top, it's page Yud Aleph, and the bottom, for those that have the regular English Tanya, is page 26. Okay, what we learned in Perek Vav, the Alter Rebbe's broad definition of what the definition of evil is. Evil, like we learned, is not a Webster dictionary definition of evil. The Alter Rebbe said evil is something which is not holy. If it's not holy, it's evil. Okay? And he started explaining that comes, where does evil sustain itself? Yes, evil sustains itself from Kedusha, from hope, because everything has to sustain itself from Hashem. But it comes down so limited, limitation after limitation, concealment after concealment, to such an extent that you don't feel the Kedusha in it at all. In fact, as Alter Rebbe says, Ein b'hem tov klal. There is no open good in it, and therefore, as we're going to learn now, you can't elevate it. Because like we learned last week, the word asur means bound. That means the godliness in this physical object is bound to evil. And that's what's called sholosh klipos hatameis, which is three, but it's generally bunched together as one. That it's three levels of impurity, which are total evil. And Alter Rebbe says that's where the souls of idol worshippers come from. That's where all the forbidden foods of inanimate plant and animal come. That is the lifeline of those things. And like we discussed, that's why it's forbidden, because we can't elevate it. And now we're going to start Perek Zayin. So the Alter Rebbe says, Ach nefesh hachiyunis habamish b'Yisrael. The animal soul, which gives life, as Alter Rebbe spoke about in the first Perek of Tanya, by a Yid, shemitzad haklipa, as Alter Rebbe said in the first Perek, comes from the side of evil, hamlubeshes bedam ha'adam, which dresses itself into the blood of the person. And like we explained when we learned this in the first Perek, that because the neshama is spiritual and the body is physical, and in order for the spiritual soul to come into a physical body, you need to have the most spiritual part of the body connecting to the soul. So therefore, what is the most spiritual part of the human body is the blood. So therefore, the soul, this animal soul that gives life to us, finds itself in the blood of the person. So he says that soul. The same thing, nefashis, behemoths, v'chayis, the souls of animals or beasts, the aphis or birds, v'dogim tahedim umetorim ba'achila, permissible kosher foods, or kiyim v'chayis, the life and existence of daimim, of all inanimate things, v'cholat semeach, or all plant life, which is permissible to eat. Last time, the Alter Rebbe gave the analogy, where do you have plant life that's forbidden? So it's like the first 3 years of a tree, the orla, you're not allowed to eat. If there was a mixture of different types of species, wheat and grapes, so all these things become forbidden to eat. So that Alter Rebbe said in the previous chapter, that's nourished from shalosh klipos hatameis, from the complete level of evil. But all these kosher things, and just like Alter Rebbe spoke at the end of Perek Vav, that all treifa things come from shalosh klipos hatameis, plus any evil thought, evil speech, evil action, because it's against Torah, is forbidden. Where does he get that nourishment from? From evil, klipa, total evil, shalosh klipos hatameis. But kiyim v'chayis kol ma'aseh dibur u'machshava, but the existence and life of any action, speech, or thought, in worldly things, that there's nothing forbidden. It's not thought forbidden, not forbidden thought, forbidden speech, forbidden action. The shadish, not a source, and not even a branch of shasam mitzvahs loisas evanfeim deraisu drabanan. They're not either rabbinically forbidden or biblically forbidden. They are normal worldly thought, speech, and action. So why are they evil? because you're not doing it for the sake of God. You're not thinking it, you're not speaking it, you're not doing it for Hashem. You're doing it the will of the body. In other words, to give you a simple example, if a person eats, I'm going to use a sharp expression, he fresses meat or any other food that's kosher. But he's not doing it because he wants to serve Hashem. He's doing it because he just enjoys it. He's not at all utilizing this as a power to serve Hashem. He's doing it because he enjoys it. And he says, even if you're eating it to be alive, you're eating it to be alive. But he's not eating it with the intent of serving Hashem, to serve God with his body. He's eating it to live, yes, and he's eating it just to live, not eating it to serve Hashem. So then he says like this: Le'adifa ma'aseh dibur u'machshavas elu. This thought, action, speech, or thought is not better than nefesh hachiyunis habad atzma, than the animal soul itself. I'm going to read a few more lines. I'm going to explain all of this together. V'akel kasher lakel, and everything in this total issue, nishpa v'nimshach, gets sustenance, gets drawn down, mimadrega sheinish shebeklipa v'sitra achra, from the second level of evil and the other side, which is called klipa revius, the fourth klipa. Remember, there are three levels of total evil klipa, and this is klipa revius, that's called klipas noiga sheba'olam hazeh, which is called klipas noiga. I'm going to take a few minutes to explain everything that we just said. Now, the Rebbe is saying like this: forbidden things, their nourishment is in total evil. Shalosh klipas hatameis. Shalosh klipas hatameis are forbidden because a Jew cannot elevate them. The purpose of a Jew in world is to elevate the world and make the world a dwelling place for Hashem. Therefore, Hashem says these things are forbidden, meaning you cannot elevate them. And like we learned last week, you could eat it with a bracha, 10 brachas, and go to the mikveh and eat it for the right causes and learn and daven with it and do everything. That food was never elevated. Evil cannot be elevated. Total evil cannot be elevated. And that's why it's forbidden. But there's another level of evil in the world. Evil that's not forbidden. Why isn't it holy? Because like we learned in Perek Vav, anything which is not openly holy is evil. But that level of evil, the fourth level of evil, that's known as klipas noiga. Why is it called klipas noiga? Noiga means a shine, a ray. What does it mean, noiga? We say in Kel Odin and Shabbos, Malayim Ziv u'Mefikim noiga. Noiga means a ray. What does klipas noiga mean? It is klipa, it's evil, but noiga, there shines in it a little bit of holiness. What does it mean? It shines in it a little bit of holiness. The godliness that's in it is not bound to the evil. It's not asur, which means bound. It's mutar, which means untied, meaning the object itself is evil. It's not kedusha. But the life of godliness that's in this, let's use an example of an apple. An apple is not holy. It's not holy. So therefore, it's automatically klipas noiga. It's not shalosh klipas hatameis. It's not the complete level of evil because it's kosher. It's not forbidden. But it's not holy. If it's not holy, it's getting its sustenance from evil. What level of evil? Klipas noiga, a level of evil where the godliness is not bound to it. It's the life of godliness in it is loose, and therefore it's possible for a person. Now, the Rebbe is going to use very interesting expressions soon. you can elevate that apple. I mean, what do you mean elevate the apple? You're not elevating the apple. You're elevating the spark of godliness that's in the apple, and you're bringing it back to Kedusha. When? When you make a bracha on it, number one, you eat it for the right purposes. To serve Hashem. So yes, you're eating, you can enjoy it, you can like it. But if I'm eating it because by enjoying this food and liking the food, I'm going to be healthy and I'll be able to serve Hashem. And that's your ultimate goal in this whole thing of eating and drinking and all that. So then you're elevating it to Kedusha. You have that not only in eating. For instance, people want to exercise. Okay? Person exercises. Why does he want to exercise? Because he wants to be healthy. He wants to serve Hashem. So as long as it's not forbidden exercise, you can have a lot of, you can bow, exercise in front of an idol, or I mean, you can do forbidden types of exercise. As long as it's kosher exercise, and a person is, so that exercise comes from klipa. It's not holy. Exercise is not holy. But it's kosher exercise, which means the godliness in the exercise that makes it exist and function is klipas noiga. So therefore, if a person uses the exercise to be healthy, to live like a Jew, and to be able to serve Hashem, he elevates the exercise. He elevates that gym. If a person goes on vacation, a kosher vacation, because then he's restful that when he comes back, he can serve Hashem better, then that vacation is holy. It's not holy by itself. It's klipas noiga. But a Jew has the ability, because it's not forbidden, it's not bound to evil. The Jew has the ability to elevate the spark of Kedusha that's in the physical objects. Like he says, inanimate, plant, animal. Because the nefesh habamis, the animal soul of a Jew, also comes to klipas noiga. The problem, though, the Alter Rebbe is going to explain soon, is as follows. What happens if I eat this apple for the wrong way, for the wrong reason? Or I exercise not because I want to be healthy to serve Hashem. I'm exercising because I want to worship my body. Not because of serving Hashem better with a healthy person. The Rambam writes, for a person to be healthy is part of serving is part of serving Hashem. Because a sick person can't do Torah mitzvahs. So if a person is exercising because he wants to do Torah mitzvahs, and he learns and davens because he exercised better and he's healthier, that becomes holy like a sacrifice. But if a person will eat the apple, it's kosher, and he made a brach on it, but he's not eating it for the right purposes, he's eating it because he's indulged in eating, then the Alter Rebbe is going to say, you lower it into total evil. Which means, as Sid is being done, we're going to see it more when we get inside, learn it inside. But there's a remarkable concept over here, and that is as follows. Chassidus says, paraphrasing Chassidus, the apple is klipas noiga. Like we said, it's kosher, neutral. You can go up or down. It only remains neutral until the Jew touches it or eats it. Because if the Jew eats it the right way, it goes to Kedusha. If he eats it the wrong way, it's going to go down to evil. So it shows it only remains klipas noiga until the Jew starts playing with it. Once the Jew plays with it, it either goes up or down. But here the Alter Rebbe is explaining what the definition of klipas noiga is. Meaning, every permissible thing in the world, if it's not holy, is called klipas noiga. Everything in the world, inanimate, plant, animal, human, which are forbidden, is shows klipas hatmeis. And then you have kedusha. Kedusha, things that are holy. Chumashim, sedurim, thoughts of Torah, speech of Torah, actions of Torah. You do a mitzvah that's holy. That's what the level of kedusha is. But in evil, you have two things. So he says, all these permissible things in the world, lock, stock, and barrel, He says, comes in the fourth level, which is called Klipas Nega Sheba'elam Hazeh, which this world is called Olam Asiya. This world is called the world of action, which is Rubei Kukulera. Basically, almost all of it, the majority, vast majority of the world is evil. Rak ma'at teiv mu'orev b'sech, but a little bit of good is in it. In other words, this world is also not holy until the Jew makes it holy. This world basically is klipas naiga, because we can elevate to it besides the things which are forbidden. And he says this level of klipas naiga, and he said, I'm sorry, let's get the bracket. From this klipas naiga is where the good, natural, instinctive things of the nefesh, of the midas of the nefesh habamis come, like we learned before in the first parak, like you said before. This is bechinas, therefore klipas naiga is bechina mamutzas, is the intermediary ben shalosh klipas hatmeis lagabi, between the level of complete evil ubein the bechinas umadreges hakadusha, and holiness. So in other words, you have the two extremes. You have ultimate kedusha and ultimate evil. In between, there's a level of evil. It's called klipas naiga. But because there's a little bit of good in it, it's the intermediary between holiness and total evil. Therefore, the Alter Rebbe says, Lochein, pa'amim shinechleles b'shalosh klipas hatameis. Therefore, klipas naiga could be lowered into total evil, like we said, if you eat it the wrong way, for the wrong purposes, like it says in Eitz Chaim Shamam Tes Peish Pei B'Shem Hazeh, Upa'amim Shinechleles V'Eila B'Bchinas Madreges HaKedusha, and therefore it can become holy. This intermediary level of klipas naiga can either become kedusha if it's done used the right way. If it's used the wrong way, it goes down into evil. By the way, that choice is ours. That's our choice. Whether the klipa goes up or down is not up to Hashem. That's up to us. We use it the right way, we elevate it to kedusha. We use it the wrong way, we lower it into evil. The choice is ours. And he says, the hainu, which means, and the Alter Rebbe says what it means. When you say klipas neiga becomes elevated to kedusha, it doesn't mean the apple becomes holy. It means sha'atev ha'ma'urev, the good. That, remember, klipas neiga means there shines within it a little bit of good. So when that level of good which is in it, nizbar and me'ara, becomes refined from the evil, selected from the evil, the geiver v'ayla v'nichel b'kedusha, and you utilize it for the sake of kedusha, like he says, derech mashal, the Gemara, he gives an analogy. Ha'echel bisra shmeina detura. A person eats juicy steak, it's beef, ox meat. The shaisa yayim avusam, or he drinks very spiced wine, and he's drinking it. Laharchiv daite lashemu l'teirase, to broaden his mind to understand better. That there's a famous story in the Gemara. We mentioned this many times in the classes. One person asked Rav Nachman, the famous Rav Nachman of the Gemara, was asked a question, and he didn't know the answer. And the next morning he found the person that asked him the question, and he told him the answer, and he said, the reason I didn't answer you at night, because I didn't eat bisra, I didn't eat dinner yet, basically. So therefore my brain wasn't working as well. And therefore I didn't know the answer. Now I ate, so now I can tell you the answer. So when he ate, what was the purpose of his eating and drinking? To serve Hashem. Or like the Gemara says, Amar Rava says, Chamra v'recha, wine and a good fragrance make a person smart. So again, what are we using it for? If we're using it to serve Hashem, or another thing he says, Bishvil kedei lakayin mitzvahs enik Shabbos v'yom tov. If you're eating it because of Shabbos, you want to enjoy Shabbos. And therefore, the eating itself is a mitzvah. It's very interesting. Normally, during the week, eating is not a mitzvah. It's a means to be healthy, to serve Hashem. Shabbos, just eating the food is a mitzvah. So he says, then what happens? Nizbarer chayes habasev hayayin, the life of the meat and the wine. Shayanishba miklipes neiga, that was until now sustained from this klipes neiga level of evil. Va'ela Hashem, and it goes up to Hashem, and here the Alter Rebbe says an unbelievable thing. Ka'ela uka carbon, just as holy as a sacrifice. That means the Alter Rebbe says, and the Alter Rebbe adding these two, the Alter Rebbe said Ka'ela Hashem. He says Ka'ela uka carbon. The Alter Rebbe is saying a remarkable thing here, that when I eat food for the right purposes, or I do something with the right purpose in mind, I'm making it as holy as a sacrifice. And Alter Rebbe doesn't just say carbon. He says Ola uka carbon. What is Ola? Ola is the holiest carbon. Kachi Kachim, it's called the holy of holy carbon. The Alter Rebbe said that's what happens when you eat it l'shem shemayim, or do anything l'shem shemayim. And then he says v'cheino eimer, the same thing. Whoever says milsa dibduchusa, a person starts off learning with a joke. Why does he do it? Lefakeach daite, to open up his mind. V'litzmeach libe l'Hashem v'luterasi v'avidose, and to be in a good mood, because like he says, tzrichem liyas b'simcha, you have to learn and do mitzvahs with simcha. Ivdos Hashem b'simcha. So if a person, before they learn, or before they do a mitzvah, they crack a joke. Why? Because they want to get into a better mood. When you're in a better mood, you learn better. And like he says, Kamesh Amar, also Rava l'talmidov, like Rava used to do to his students. The Gemara says, Sha'amar lefnei milsa de b'duchas etchila. Rava, before, when he was giving a class, before he started the class, he said a joke, and then ubatche rabbanon, and the rabbanon laughed. And then the Gemara continued. The Alter Rebbe doesn't bring it down. The Gemara continued. Then they sat with awe and fear, and they learned. So what was the purpose of that joke? He wasn't because he was a comedian, a stand-up comedian. Rava cracked a joke to get the people into a better mood. So obviously it was a kosher joke, because a forbidden joke is sinful. So that can't be elevated. We're talking about a clean, kosher joke. A clean, kosher joke, because it's utilized for the right purposes, not because, Tom, you want to hear jokes. Because you want to serve Hashem better, all of that becomes elevated, mamish, as holy as a sacrifice. Which Alter Rebbe is saying is a very remarkable concept. Now the Alter Rebbe is going to continue and say, what happens if you eat it for the wrong purposes? Or you go to the gym because you want to worship your body. You don't want to worship Hashem. You want your body to be God, like many people do. Or you do forbidden things for other reasons. Then you're lowering it into total evil. And there's a big problem with that. So the Alter Rebbe is explaining so far, to get it clear. There's Kedusha and there's evil. Evil has two subdivisions. One division is total evil that cannot be elevated. Those are the things which are forbidden, whether it's inanimate, plant, animal, or human. They cannot be elevated. Then you have the neutral level of evil, which is called klipes neiga, meaning permissible things, which means that you have the ability to elevate it. So then when you utilize it and elevate it in the right way, then you make it as holy as a carbon. And that's by one of the reasons, by the way, when we know that the shulchan daimel mizbeach, a person when they eat dinner or lunch or breakfast, the table that you eat is like a mizbeach. That's why Allah is you're supposed to have salt on the table, because every sacrifice had salt. We learn to pick up is you have to say a Dvar Torah at the table. Why? Because it's a mizbeach. Why is the table a mizbeach? Because when you eat the food properly with a bracha and kosher food, and you eat it for the right purposes, you are actually, your table becomes a mizbeach, it becomes an altar that you are elevating the physical food, mamish, as great as a burnt offering, which is completely holy. That's a remarkable concept. So what it means is, what Alter Rebbe is basically saying, when you eat for the right reasons. Because Alter Rebbe is going to start now, we're going to just start it because it's getting a little late. The Alter Rebbe is going to say, but if you eat it to, pardon the expression, to fress or to guzzle or because you indulged in it, then you're taking that spark of Kedusha that could have been elevated to holiness because it's untied, and you are lowering it into total evil. And you can get it back out, but there's still a mark remaining. He says it like this, like 6, 7 lines in the bottom of the page. But a person who is glutton and save yayin and what is in English? Glutton is guzzle meat and quaff wine, whatever. In simple English, a fresser. Lamalas taivas gufe v'nafshi abamis. Only, and he's only doing it to fulfill his desires of the animal soul, which comes, as he said before in the first paragraph, she bechinis yesed amayim me'aba yesed seroim sheba, which comes from the element of water. Remember, he said that the animal soul is composed of 4 elements. Anger comes from fire, and temptations come from water, and depression and comes from earth, and boasting and empty things that come from the element of air. He says, by pressing it and guzzling it, the kedusha that's in this meat or in this wine, because we're talking about kosher wine and kosher meat, it goes down the nechlal lefisha, and it becomes temporarily connected to the gomor shabashol shchiv satameis, into total evil. And not only that, he says like this: the gufei nasa and labush umerkava lefisha. What happens is, not only are you lowering into evil, but because your body now has this evil in it because you pressed it and guzzled it, so then your body is now the garment of that total evil. That means your body becomes totally impure from that impurity that you just lowered, not trade for meat. We're not talking about non-kosher food. We're talking about the kosher food that you ate for the wrong purposes, to be indulged in it. As we said many times, they don't eat to live, they live to eat. And that's the whole purpose in their life, is to eat, eat, eat. Nothing to do with Hashem or serving Hashem. So that food you're lowering into total evil. And because your body now houses that food that you ate, your body becomes a garment for that evil. But Alter Rebbe is going to say, but there, because it was kosher, you could do tshuva. It's not like total evil that you can never elevate it. Even though this klipas nega, because of your action, was lowered into total evil, so you're able to bring it out through tshuva. But even then, the Alter Rebbe says not so simple, because you still got a mark remaining. Okay, so this is what the Alter Rebbe says. We'll leave it over here. Mitzvah Shem, don't forget, Monday night, 8 o'clock is the Chumash Parsha Shir, and next Wednesday, Mitzvah Shem, will be Tanya, Haloch and Tanya. So everybody should have a good week. This week, don't forget the Shabbos Mvarchim, Shabbos Mvarchim Kislev, and everybody should have a very good week. Take care.
Thank you. Good
Rabbi.
Shabbos.
I have a question.
Thank
Did
you
you
so
say a siddur should be on top of Tehillim or Tehillim
No.
on top of Siddur?
No, a Tehillim on top of the city, because Tehillim is part of Tanakh.
Uh-huh.
You put the Tehillim on a Chumash, but it goes on top of the Siddur.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Take care.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you, Rabbi.
Good night, Effie.
Books here now.